Welcome back, fellow anachronists. In this video, we'll be looking at the second part of Captain Marvel's early history, from issue 5 all the way up to issue 10. So, let's get right to it. There's a lot to cover. A month after the release of issue 4, the Roy Thomas and Gene Colan team left the book. In their place came Arnold Drake as a new writer, and Don Heck as a new artist. They resolved questions that were begging to be answered in previous issues. Both the Kree and the K personnel are more fleshed out, though the execution still leaves me wanting more. There's information here that would have helped us relate to the Captain from the first issue onward, but what little backstory is shown here is written long after readers stopped caring. A lot of that could have been tolerable if not for the repetitive nature of the Captain's crew. That and the vagueness of their society causes the series to drag. The biggest issue is the love triangle between Marv, Una, and Jan Rog. Una loves Mar-VELL's honorable and heroic nature, and he loves her loyalty as they're both unnaturally empathetic for Kree. But why is that? We're told this is the case, but it's never really justified on the page. If they were humans, I wouldn't really be making a big stink about it. But for two aliens coming from a fascistic planet heeding their own human-like conscience, that's a premise that doesn't get explored in this run. If Una was his confidant, their conversations could have given us some hints as to why they seem to be the only two rebellious Kree. Instead, she fades into the background for most issues. Marvel Superheroes issue 13 is when Una's most proactive. She's accused of hysteria and imprisoned in her chambers. But there, she has access to sleeping gas, so she gasses the whole crew and slides the breathing liquid to her captain. More actions like these would at least make us invest in Una's character, and at most reveal how Kree society works. Jan Rog wants to cut in, for he's traitorous and bloodthirsty. But why does he want Una so badly? Is it simple jealousy of Mar-VELL? The thrill of corrupting someone as sweet as her? Did they have a prior history together? What does he even see in her that he can't get from other female Kree? Is this the first time he's been so close to a woman and he doesn't know how to react? Maybe he's just a simple man who likes what he sees.
Why'd you come?
Costume had a lot to do with it.
For all 10 issues, they repeat the same beats. Jan Rog tries to accidentally get rid of Mar-VELL. Una cries a lot, and Mar-VELL finds a way to come out smelling like roses. The new writers don't improve upon this formula. Their villains, while new, don't live long enough to leave a strong impression. From here on out, the villains go from established characters that contrast with Mar-VELL to freaks of science and underground crime organizations. The being known as the Metazoid is still a foil, but he's too on the nose to be interesting. He's a Russian rebel who transformed into a tar monster, and like Mar-VELL, he'll be granted freedom once he does the bidding of his tyrannical overlords. To be free, he must kidnap famed rocket scientist Dr. Lawson. They cross paths after Ronan orders Marv to mind-wipe the comatose night clerk under his Walter Lawson persona. Well, actually, it's Mar-VELL himself who opts for the mind-wipe option, citing that the clerk's destruction would raise unnecessary suspicion. So instead he goes for a Men in Black style neuralizer.
I am just a figment of your imagination.
This does beg the question, was Mar-VELL such a rebellious Kree that he had to have his mind wiped several times? Maybe he knows and is so brainwashed by this point that he accepts the loss of his memory. After all, to keep the Kree Empire immortal, memory is a small price to pay.
The fight begins at the hospital, where Captain Marvel, disguised as Dr. Lawson, is there to mind-wipe the night clerk. That's just when Metazoid catches up to him.
The creature clings to him as he flies away. The added weight plummets them back down. Lucky for the captain, the Zoid isn't the killer, so it softens the fall. His intuition tells him that the monster spared him. Perhaps urgency forces him to disregard his feelings and complete the mission. When the captain figures out the monster's weakness, he tries to subdue him, but this ends up killing the monster, making him Mar-VELL's first earthly kill. He feels remorse for the creature, thinking that they might be more similar than he'd like to think. He's obviously projecting, but he's right. Like him, the Metazoid is in league with a militarized society that would stop at nothing to expand its empire. Their conflict is that, to find freedom, they must do horrible things for the sake of their rulers. In the Metazoid's case, it's to kidnap Dr. Lawson so that the Soviet scientists could revert him back to normal. He knows they're most likely lying, since they use this political dissident as a guinea pig. Still, both swallow their doubts and shame by continuing their mission to their deaths. Had Marvel allowed the bacteria from issue 4 to escape, he might have gone down this route, pushing away all guilt and sympathy, maybe even using the memory eraser. A shame he wasn't developed more. Solam, the solar golem of issue 6, is power given form.
and quickly dispatched. Both it and the Metazoid are one-and-done villains who resemble beings the Kree apparently fought off. In theory, this should begin to worry the Kree warrior, but in practice they read as cop-outs by the writer, so that the captain has a convenient way of defeating these monsters. It appears that Arnold Drake is a big fan of conveniences, as we'll later see. Let me put it this way. Earth scientists, by sheer coincidence, managed to recreate beings that once plagued the Kree. But the captain doesn't even bother to investigate how these Earthlings managed to create these spaceborne monstrosities. That should have been one of the criteria for deeming the Earth too dangerous to live. Surprisingly, Jan Rog didn't give Salam life, but he does want Walter to observe and report. Nothing more. At least it reminds us of Jan Rog's wristband communicator. It hasn't been used since issue 1. Instead of opening the issue with this filler training scene or whatever the hell that was, the story would feel more complete if Jan wasn't so outwardly antagonistic. Since MAR-VELL is all alone against the Earth and he loses power and air the longer he stays there, the crew from the Hellion should be more helpful at the beginning, but to make the captain more proactive, he could refuse their help since he doesn't want them to know he's been helping the Earthlings. That way we would focus less on inconsequential Earthlings like the cabbie and the hotelier, and more on other Kree that could help us get a feel for Kree culture and ethics. Plus, complications like the one in this issue could make Marv suspicious about Jan's involvement and later try to do something about it. As it is, these issues feel repetitive. Next issue is both the worst and most interesting issue in the run. It starts with a torture scene. Ronan is asking Marv what's going on, and like any good spy, he's very good at lying.
He questions the captain's recent actions on Earth. So far, he's defeated the Rowan Sentry, failed to let germs infest New York Harbor, and defeated Salam with Kree tactics. Mar-VELL's clever answers circumvent the tech circuits. He admits his actions, but denies doing it out of sympathy for Earth or spite towards his own race. The machine can't tell whether he's telling the truth or not. Perhaps this indicates that the captain himself is unsure of his answers. He's frustrated by his growing sympathy, a sympathy he did not share with the Kree's other enemies.
To prove his loyalty, Mar-VELL is ordered to unleash a virus on a heavily populated area and let the inhabitants die.
Surely he must have killed innocents for the Empire before. But could he justify these murders as easily as the ones in his past?
Like I said in last issue, Jan Rog being so hostile to Mar-VELL really hurts the potential this run could have had. Instead, Ronan could have told Mar-VELL that there's a traitor on his mission to Earth since issue 2 or 3. He wouldn't know for sure, but based on his keen observational skills, he'd narrow it down to either Jan Rog or some other suspicious crew member. Then Mar would wait until this issue to lay out all the evidence against Jan Rog. But then Ronan could turn the tables on him and accuse Mar-VELL of being the traitor all along. Instead, we get Quasimodo, the living computer. He's an established character, but he gets nothing really interesting to do here. He's a technomancer, a robot with a human mind, capable of imbuing sentience to other machines. He noticed the spike of computer energy from last issue and travels to the Cape to use it to his advantage. And like the literary Quasimodo, he resents mankind, so he simply wants more energy, enough to make men his slaves. So imagine the movie Maximum Overdrive, but with one fugly son of a bitch controlling every machine around him.
Maximum terror.
With the captain's magnetic beam, he should have made short work of him. Instead, it takes him half the book to figure this out. He bit the sentry with the same tactic, and that one self-repaired. Quasimodo shoots him, and he pretends to be out. Why didn't Quasimodo kill him off though?
Hey super genius computer guy, maybe make sure he's actually dead this time? At least scavenge his body for alien technology. Don't you think that will help you with your world domination?
Ugh, this is the worst issue so far. And it gets worse. After feigning defeat, Mar-VELL's suit tracks down the radiation that Quasimodo emits. He follows the source and confirms that Quasimodo is inside the control center of the, yeah, this is when all goodwill goes down the shitter. So, Mar-VELL tracks Quasi down to an area known as the, quote, gay 90s town. No, not that 90s. Not that type of gay either. And it's not really a town. It's more of a Westworld retro-futuristic attraction. This comes out of nowhere, it's not foreshadowed, and worse, they're not people. They're animatronics, imbued with sentience by Quasimodo. But how convenient for Mar-VELL. Not only did he find a quote-unquote town filled with humanoid animatronics, but the monster of the week just so happens to give life to machines. And when he magnetizes Quasimodo to the control center,
Its defeat makes it seem as if all the inhabitants died of a mysterious space-borne virus. Jan Ron couldn't have planned it better himself. The Kree will think that he killed those people, as per the mission. MAR-VELL doesn't have to feel guilty, and he lives to betray the Kree another day, further kicking the can down the road for another issue. I wouldn't blame anyone for dropping the title entirely from here. Even contemporary fans grew tired of the spaceman's adventures on Earth, and wanted him to go on to weirder places in the galaxy. Readers were supposed to be in suspense as to whether he would actually destroy the world or not. But like his comic books, most people didn't buy it.
Issues 8 through 11 share a story arc that ends in the first transformation of the Captain. Unfortunately, it features many lackluster villains.
It opens with the rival aliens attacking our dear Kree.
The Akon?
So long, Mr. Long.
They are reoccurring antagonists for the rest of the arc, but we don't know anything about them. All we know is that they consider the Kree their mortal enemies. There's not much else to be said, really.
Arnold Drake mostly used them
As another convenient force for whenever he gets into a bind. The ship the enemy aliens rode in on was not built for large-scale assault. When Jan Rog declares the crew to attack, the captain refuses, not because he sympathizes with them, but because it would put their earthly mission at risk. But the arrogant colonel couldn't care less, so he loses his cool and his consciousness in the attack. The captain does what any captain would do: take charge and save as many men as possible, even if they hate your guts.
This doesn't change John's opinion about Marv. If anything, it makes him hate him more.
With nothing better to do, the captain looks deeper into the past life of his alter ego, Walter Lawson, partially on a whim and partially to satisfy the whims of Carol Danvers. It turns out he was in cahoots with the deadly, iconic underground criminal organization known as...
The Organization.
Please clap.
He was building something for them. Something of unfathomable power.
Another giant, self-repairing robot. Essentially, it's an easier fight than the one with the Sentry.
The only difference is that it's programmed to track down the smell of its creator, Dr. Lawson, and kill him. At least this part of the Not Brand Ek comic became canon. This is the most exploration the Lawson persona gets. Overall, it's a big missed opportunity. MAR-VELL doesn't judge Lawson, even after knowing the dead man worked for a techno-terrorist organization, since we don't know why Lawson would do such a thing, whether he did it willingly or under threat of death. The story feels unfinished. If he was forced to do this, like MAR-VELL was forced to kill the Kree's enemies, then this could have been the tipping point at which MAR-VELL finally decides to side with humanity. Maybe Lawson's suicidal programming was the only thing that could stop the organization from forcing him and his robot to do terrible things. Or Lawson could have been a real bastard, contacting the organization first and selling out his country to the highest bidder. This would remind MAR-VELL of the importance of loyalty to a worthy cause, casting doubt as to whether humanity is worth saving. But thanks to the efforts of Carol, he could find it within himself to try and redeem the dead man's life, or at least bring his crimes to light. Speaking of Carol, this arc is when she becomes the most relevant, so let me rewind the clock a little bit.
She's introduced as the head of security at the Cape, but what she doesn't know is that Lawson's been killed by aliens, and then replaced by his alien killers. She didn't trust the original Lawson, so it should have been difficult for the alien imposter to fit in. But just as she inches closer to the truth, other plotlines conveniently intervene. And as Lawson exits, MAR-VELL, well, makes her marvel at such a heroic specimen.
Major Danvers has told me a lot about you.
Ooh, he's cute.
Subtle, Jan.
Classic haters to lovers story here, right?
It's too bad she doesn't get to do much in these early stories.
The most she does is hound MAR-VELL with questions.
For example,
Carol confronts the fake Lawson about the lack of photographs in his personnel file, so he shields himself in misogyny to make her go away. But Carol isn't having any of that. She's a professional and won't be so easily spooked. This is the first time Lawson acts like a blue-skinned asshole. But ironically enough, Carol is so used to this treatment that she doesn't even bat an eye. She just straight up goes Super Saiyan.
I mean, look at her. Don't tell me she doesn't already have a superpower here.
You don't know me at all.
She could have been written as a non-physical threat.
A Lois Lane type of character with more combat experience than a journalist, and less sympathetic to Lawson's antics.
With enough evidence of Lawson's wrongdoings, she could have had him fired or sued, and that's a dilemma the Kree couldn't just punch his way through. It would have been interesting at least to see him compare Earth justice to Kree justice. The Kree, as far as I can tell, trust only one man, or Kree, to carry out justice: Ronan. Marv could have been confused or amazed at us humans trusting more than one person for such an important job. After investigating Lawson's connection with the organization, he tells Carol about everything he found, and Carol rewards her informant with an innocent kiss. But he doesn't even seem to care that Danvers kissed him. The issue ends with Jan Rog showing Una how good his captain's adapted to earthly customs. Una knows Jan wants the captain dead to get his hands on her. It's hard for me to believe she would fall so easily for his provocation. Whenever the captain returned to the Hellion, both he and Una wished they could spend some more time together, but there was always an obstacle standing in their way, either the threat of the briefcase exploding or Ronan's hasty orders. It would have gone a long way for us to see Una's thought process. Maybe in her head, those obstacles were excuses not to spend time with her. Doubly so if my previous idea was implemented. The fight with the cover robot Cyber-X is the least interesting part of this arc. He's just another lifeless robot for the captain to punch. He fights not for the sake of the men in danger, but more so to stop the pursuit of his alter ego. And the robot is defeated like a video game boss, shot until his HP goes down. Oh, but surprise, surprise, he's got a second health bar, just in time for the next issue. In this one, Carol starts snooping into Lawson's past, but it's too little too late. We don't learn anything new about Dr. Lawson. This is just a setup to have her kidnapped by Cyber-X. I do like how this panel paints her though. She's competent and a bit morally gray by bribing the hotel clerk into giving her Lawson's key. She's also fearless after Cyber-X kidnaps her, even questioning his orders. But I'm not sure how I feel about her using 60s slang. She seemed like a very formal and professional character in her other appearances. Maybe she did some introspection off panel after Lawson's sexist comments and MAR-VELL's sexy kiss. During his fight with Cyber-X, the captain is almost beaten, but Carol inspires him to keep going. She's loyal despite their oncoming doom. I think this is also the mindset all Kree should have on paper, but we've already seen how hypocritical Kree men act, trying to both finish their assignments and backstab any Kree that might get in their way of their petty glory. Maybe that's what he's been looking for all this time. A species that shares his mindset without abusing its power. Speaking of backstabbing Kree, Jan Rog notices that the Akon are still looking for Marvel. Seeing another chance at killing the captain, Jan Rog activates his risk monitor so that the Akon can track and kill him. Una, who would normally protest against this, stands by Jan Rog's side. Here's another great opportunity missed. The blossoming romance between our captain and Carol is driving Una up the wall. Instead of Jan Rog activating the communicator, a jealous Una could have activated it instead. This would cause Marv some pain, and Una would hope it would be enough for Marv to not rescue Carol. And the Akon tracing MAR-VELL could have been an unlucky coincidence that sends her into a spiral of guilt. The resolution is both uninteresting and convoluted. Because Jan Rog activated the wristband communicator, the Akon are able to track down the captain, who is busy fighting Cyber-X. Conveniently, Cyber-X thinks the Akon are Lawson's helpers, and the Akon thinks Cyber-X is a Kree robot protecting MAR-VELL. Since the power set of the Sentry and Cyber-X are so similar, I guess I can't fault the Akon for thinking this was a new model. What's Cyber-X's excuse? Well, Marvel did maneuver himself so that the robot got stuck in the middle of the Akon's attack, so I guess that's that. This distraction allows MAR-VELL to safely escort Danvers out of there. Cyber-X is down, for now. Once safe, MAR-VELL rejoins the fray with the Akon. With the odds against them, the black light could have come in handy here. Danvers distracts Marv enough for the Akon to get a clear shot. Rummaging through his belongings, they find the Kree's Imperial War Codes, which apparently they've been after for hundreds of years. Essentially, it's a cipher to decrypt the Kree secrets. How convenient. This information would have been nice to know at the beginning of the issue, to foreshadow this event. Like, if the Super Skrull had mentioned the cipher when he found the suitcase in issue 2, this scene would feel more organic. But just then, Cyber-X awakens after smelling the scent of Lawson on the codebook. The fight begins again. This time, Cyber-X is the victor, and just then, Marvel reawakens and shoots the robot, who shoots back. The beam struggle ends with Marv overpowering the machine, and once the robot is destroyed, everything is revealed. The codebook was actually Lawson's old phone book, who he had written in a tantalizing legend, Z19, in Kree letters. And that's it. Oh man, that one was hard to get through. But issue 10 picks up the pace. It opens in the middle of things as MAR-VELL is about to be executed for treason. At last, something of consequence seems to be happening.
It turns out that this scene takes place in the future, and to unravel the mystery of this execution, we must go back. After witnessing MAR-VELL's adventures, Ronan tells Marv to ally himself with the criminal organization. Apparently these guys have enough resources to take over the world? I guess Hydra and AIM went broke after fighting heroes on the daily.
What's their catch?
In order to complete the cube for Hydra, AIM will need more money.
I'll get back to you. $1 million for anyone that brings me his book.
The organization's leader unleashes a new type of gun that makes AIM look like a bunch of nerds. The Eon Ray. It can fasten your metabolism 10 years per second until you're nothing but dust. Hey, didn't an enlightened Marv have to fight something similar when Thanos became a god? I guess Jim Starlin paid attention. Wait, I just remembered. Didn't Jim also create a being with the same name as the Ray? Maybe this was his favorite issue. Una gets a new power in the next issue. She gains the ability to give the captain the cold shoulder. We don't get any insight about why the captain didn't try to convince her that it was a misunderstanding. The next time we see him, he's in the car with Danvers. It feels like a page went missing here. Maybe the interpretation is that the Kree don't really argue about emotions the way we do. They just raise their arms and go back to the mission, I guess. Carol and Lawson act as if nothing weird's been happening for the past few issues. Perhaps she's pretending to be dumb to coax more information out of him. It would have been nice if she confirmed this through a thought bubble or something. And like usual, whenever the writer's in a bind, the two storylines interject to stop the audience from thinking too much about the scenario. The organization corners Lawson and Danvers. They miss their shot with the Eon Ray, oxidizing a car and turning a bird into a pterodactyl. Even the organization's goons immediately lampshade how little sense this makes. And as the captain kills the prehistoric animal, he thinks the beast is luckier than him to die in battle. It's also an excuse for 2 pages of action and for Carol to be kidnapped off panel. In her place, a note confirms that her life is in danger, and the only way to save her is for Dr. Lawson to give himself up at their headquarters. But since the real Lawson died in the second issue, he uses this opportunity to make a deal with the iconic leader of the organization. He convinces number 1 that, as Lawson's representative, they can work together to rule the world. And since most of the organization's operatives were beaten by the captain, they could benefit from allying themselves with a powerful alien empire. It's fun seeing MAR-VELL finally act like a villain for once, to the point of saying his heroic persona was a ploy to get the Cape soldiers to trust him. Now that he's found the poor organization, he's ready to negotiate with what's obviously the most powerful underground force in the world. Carol lashes out, rightfully so, and he seems ready to end her life himself. But as his hand grips onto hers, he lets her in on his ruse. He hands her gas pills, and when she's free, he stops messing around. After MAR-VELL rescues Carol, number 1 strikes the captain with the Eon gun. At first I thought his Kree heritage would make it so that 1,000 years go by without affecting him much. Instead, he does age rapidly, so he takes the gun away, reverses the energy signature, and shoots himself back to life. I guess seeing the bird turn into a pterodactyl made him think it had a reverse button. And because he's Kree, maybe he just turns back into what the Kree were 1,000,000 years ago, which is pretty much the same as they are now. But in an understated twist, he turns around and shoots the remaining members without any mercy, turning them into dust. Prior issues had him destroying humanoid machines, but this is the first time we see him willingly take a human life without remorse. Ironically, this is what sets him up as a traitor to the Kree. Remember, he was explicitly told by Ronan to ally himself with them. It's too bad we don't get to see his thought process, whether he was always planning on killing them or saw no other choice but to kill. I guess since they would always try to hurt this alien pretending to be Walter Lawson, they just had to go. Even if he did ally himself with them, they would eventually know of his double life and might not be so kind to the deception. Or they would somehow understand and make peace with these beings at the pinnacle of evolution. But those what-ifs were too far in the future to consider. With Carol in peril, he'd rather sacrifice the life of indecent men than lose the life of the one who made him respect humanity. Issue 11 wastes no time. As the Kree captain is about to be executed, the organization comes to the rescue? No, it's not them. The artist must have missed the memo. The Akon from previous issues returns to inadvertently save MAR-VELL once again. They don't seem to be very patient enemies as they destroy the execution squad. Maybe they're secret fans of him? Then again, they lost their leader in the unprovoked Kree attack earlier, so maybe someone not so capable assumed command and decided to kill the Kree without remorse, without weight, and without warning. just like the Kree did to them. But the deeper irony here is that Yon-Rog's previous unprovoked attack is what ultimately foils his personal plan of destroying the captain. MAR-VELL could have run and let the aliens take care of his problems, but he doesn't even hesitate to join the fray. These guys are ready to kill him, and he still sides with them whenever they're in danger. But he does question whether it's possible for any life in the universe to live without the ego's want of power. To build that better world, you must first survive this, and he also acknowledges that his want for a better universe might also be part of the problem. It's cool seeing how objective he is with his emotions. John is annoyed at having to command his forces to attack the Akon, and thus save MAR-VELL. Ronan is watching his every move, and if he doesn't act fast, the accuser might accuse him of treachery. So Yon orders the attack, not knowing Una was down there, trying to save the captain.
By the end of last issue, Una realizes what's about to happen, her icy demeanor melting as she tries to save him from the firing squad. Although she might not feel the same way about the captain as she used to, she will still risk her life to save a man who may no longer care for her. Kind of how Marv risked his life to save the ruthless Yon-Rog. Again, it would have been much more impactful if she had actively sabotaged his mission, instead of simply giving him attitude. The other Kree men catch up to her and knock her out, and just as she begins to wake up in this issue, she is shut down for good.
Yon seizes the opportunity to strike down MAR-VELL, and this is when Marv lets go of his repressed rage, ready to kill Yon-Rog and avenge Una. The scene would have been more impactful if the art was better. There's no backgrounds, no close-ups. All the faces and stances look like they're frozen in the least interesting poses. It looks like something that would come out of the original Captain Marvel from the 40s. No offense. Also, Yon-Rog forgot about the pain bracelet on MAR-VELL's wrist. They missed an opportunity here to create a great scene showing the captain's resolve. They could have shown that the pain of his heart hurts and motivates him far more than the pain of his body. And that pain would only stop once Yon-Rog hears Una's voice. I mean, he's supposed to be in love with her, right? Una's moans bring the captain back to his senses. He flees, steals a rocket from the Cape, and hopes the medical wing inside is good enough to save Una. But alas, it's not.
Una dies, and now MAR-VELL has nothing to live for. He buries her in a desolate planet. It's not long before Yon-Rog catches up to him. He tethers his ship to his own, spins around, and releases the tether when he has chosen the most torturous path for the captain. This sends Marv into an endless voyage through space that lasts for over 100 days. I wonder, what was he thinking about during those 100 days of solitude? Well, allow me to summarize his history in good faith. From the beginning, he knew he shouldn't have thought too much about the people he knew he was going to destroy. But their tenacity against overwhelming odds, such as besting Ronan and Sentry 459, inspired a feeling that he hadn't felt before. With how open Yon-Rog is in his hatred, he knew that his freedom was forever lost as long as Yon-Rog keeps him on a leash. But if he were to somehow conquer him, just like the humans were able to conquer their fear, maybe he could do the same. When he destroyed the organization, he did it because one of the people who inspired his disobedience was in danger. He knew and accepted that this would leave him dead no matter what. There was no thought of escape or hiding amongst powered individuals, and as much as he loved Una, he couldn't risk bringing her this close to danger. Besides, she might not be as rebellious as he had thought, based on her new attitude. But the arrival of the Akon unraveled everyone's destiny. MAR-VELL is saved, sure, but rather than escaping, he fought for the same Kree that were ready to execute him. Was he hoping this would prove his loyalty? Would they have seen through his false fealty? Yon-Rog probably would, since his vain attack on the Akon caused this chain of events. But everyone was taken by surprise when they find Una among the slain bodies. There was a kind of freedom there. Everything MAR-VELL had fought for, everything he hoped for, went up in gunsmoke. All because of the hatred of one Kree man. Marv was ready to die for his own actions, because he alone was guilty. But Una? What was her crime? In the mind of the Kree, the greatest offense of all. Love. Judge, jury, and executioner have already taken her. But Yon-Rog? Ronan and the Kree would surely side with him, but never MAR-VELL. His would be the hands that would judge him. If only those hands acted faster, then he would have succeeded in avenging Una. But then again, this moment of rage, built up throughout his mission, was what really sealed Una's fate. Had he prioritized retrieving her body, he could have saved her, and they could have both drifted across free space, together at last. It's been 112 days since he started this endless voyage. Food and fuel have long run out. Hallucinations the only thing that brings him any comfort in the void of space. His latest hallucination, a growing dot on his windshield. Except, as he gets closer to it, he realizes it's no mere dot, but a real planet. It's smaller than the Earth, yet its gravity pulls him in regardless of its tiny mass. Since he's going at near light speed and without any brakes, his arrival will surely kill him, and at this point, he already longs for death. But rather than crashing, the aircraft stops, a viscous beam of light slowing his descent and pulling him down. He convinces himself that this is yet another symptom of his madness. I could imagine him already thinking himself dead, and that this dream-like place is merely his mental death throes, and I wouldn't blame him. To be labeled a traitor by the people you'd laid down your life to protect, an imposter on Earth, a lover without loved ones, this warrior without a war, resigns to close his eyes and accept his lonesome death.